She wasn't late. She just wasn't early enough. Madison stood behind the hostess stand at La Burnette, the kind of upscale restaurant where waiters wore earpieces and guests pretended to be allergic to gluten for status points. This was her second month here. She was still learning the script. Yes, absolutely. Right this way. No problem at all. It didn't matter if the question was absurd. You never said no. Especially not to him. The manager. Jeremy. 34. Power suit. Tan in winter. The kind of man who smiled at investors and smirked at everyone else. Today, he was already fuming. You didn't polish the menu covers, he said before she could clock in. Fingerprints everywhere. Reflects poorly. Do it again. She took the stack and walked to the back. No protest. That was the unspoken rule. Behind the curtain of candles and glass, the kitchen clanged with movement. Sharp voices. Fast hands. Stress dressed in white linen. Madison worked in the space between all that. Not a chef. Not a guest. Just the gatekeeper no one respected. At 7:03 p.m., the reservation showed up. Reeves, party of one. She blinked at the screen. Thought, like the actor? No way. Then the door opened. And it was. Wearing a black beanie. Soft jacket. Motorcycle gloves in his left hand. He looked around like he wasn't used to being recognized, or maybe just didn't care. Hi, Madison said, trying to sound normal. Welcome to La Burnette. He smiled. Thanks. She led him to a quiet table by the far wall. Best seat in the house, mostly because it was furthest from Jeremy. Keanu sat, placed his gloves on the table and said, "No rush." That's all. No demands. No ego. Just calm. Madison brought him water. He nodded once, appreciative. Then Jeremy appeared, like a shadow that smelled like cologne. He leaned down and whispered to Madison behind her smile. You better not screw this up. The night moved on. Keanu ordered simply, tipped quietly, thanked everyone. And yet, Jeremy hovered, checked the cutlery twice, adjusted the lighting, even corrected Madison when she placed the dessert menu. Not like that, he hissed in full view. She swallowed it, like always. But as Keanu stood to leave, he paused beside her. You all right? She blinked. Yeah. He tilted his head, like he already knew the answer was a lie. Then he handed her something folded. A paper napkin. She didn't open it right away. She watched him leave first. No limo. No crowd. Just a man walking into the night like he hadn't just shifted something in the room. Only after the door closed did she unfold the napkin. Written inside in small careful print. Don't let people dim what they can't reach. And underneath. She stared at it for a long time. Heart racing. And for the first time in weeks. She smiled. The napkin stayed in her pocket all night. Madison touched it between tables. While rolling silverware. Even while pretending not to hear Jeremy complain about how long the lobster tail was taking. She didn't know what the note meant exactly, but she knew how it felt. So, the next night he came back. No reservation. No fanfare. Same beanie. Same calm. She blinked when he walked through the door. You again, she said, almost smiling. Just passing through, he replied. She brought him water before he asked. Sat him at the same table. And this time, he didn't order right away. Instead he asked, Do you like working here? Madison hesitated, then said the safe thing. The train thing. It's a good opportunity. He looked at her. The way people do when they already know the truth and are just waiting for you to catch up. She sighed. I like parts of it. Which parts? She thought about it. When people stop pretending. Halfway through his meal, it happened. A guest near the window, drunk, red-faced, started complaining. Loudly. This salmon is lukewarm. Jeremy rushed over with the agility of a man who'd practiced apology like an art form. I am so sorry, sir. We'll fix it right away. He turned to the kitchen, barking commands. Then spun toward Madison. Take it back. Smile this time. She took the plate. Bit her tongue. As she passed Keanu's table, he said gently, Do you always take the blame? She paused. It's easier than arguing. Is it easier, he asked, or just quieter? She didn't answer, but her silence spoke for her. Later, as Keanu was leaving, Jeremy intercepted him near the door. "Mr. Reeves," he said, fake warmth radiating. "If there's ever anything we can do to make your visits more special, just say the word." Keanu looked at him. "Don't worry," he said. "You've already taught me what not to do." Then he left. Jeremy stood frozen for a beat. Then turned to Madison. "What did you say to him?" Madison just smiled. And for once, said nothing. That night, she found another note, tucked beneath a clean napkin at his table. Just one line. "You're not invisible. They just trained you to be." The next morning she almost quit. She wrote the letter. She folded it. She even held it in her hand as she stood in front of Jeremy's office. But she didn't knock. Not because she was scared. Because she wasn't done yet. By that evening, Keanu hadn't shown up. She didn't expect him to. But a part of her, the part still figuring out how to breathe again, looked toward the door every time the bell chimed. Instead, Jeremy hovered more than usual. Corrected her posture. Her pacing. The way she tucked the check presenter into her apron. "You're too slow," he said at one point. "Smile wider. You're front of house, not front of funeral." She wanted to scream. Instead, she folded napkins tighter. At 8:14 p.m., a woman spilled a glass of wine. Madison rushed to help. Jeremy rushed to her. "I told you to clear this table faster." "It wasn't." "I don't want excuses," he snapped, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Just do your job." Her hands clenched around the towel. And that's when the door opened. Keanu stepped inside, slower this time. He took it all in. Jeremy, mid-tirade. Madison, silent but shaking. Guests looking away, pretending not to notice. He said nothing. Just waited. Jeremy turned, faltering. "Mr. Reeves," he said, trying to recover. "Welcome back. We were just..." Keanu held up a hand. "Don't." One word. But it stopped the room. He walked to Madison's side. "You okay?" She nodded. But this time, her eyes didn't lie. Keanu turned to Jeremy. "Do you mind if we step outside?" Jeremy tried to smile. "Of course." They walked out through the side entrance. Quietly. No one heard what was said. No one saw what happened. But when Madison returned to the kitchen 20 minutes later, the sous chef pulled her aside. "You didn't hear it from me," she whispered, "but something's going on upstairs." "Upstairs?" "With the owners." At the end of her shift, she clocked out as usual. Only this time, the head of HR was waiting in the front hallway. "We'll be speaking with Jeremy tomorrow morning," she said carefully. "Thank you for your patience." Madison blinked. "I didn't file a complaint." The woman smiled. "Someone did." When Madison stepped outside that night, a folded napkin was taped to the inside of the hostess stand. It only takes one person to act like the place already belongs to you. Before it does. She stared at it for a long time. Then she laughed. And walked into the night without rushing. The next day, Jeremy didn't show up. No explanation. No email. Just silence. The floor staff whispered behind the espresso station. The kitchen slowed. Even the music felt softer. Madison didn't ask questions. She just stood a little taller. By dinner rush, the owner of La Burnette, a woman named Elise who rarely came downstairs, arrived wearing a black coat and unreadable expression. She called Madison aside. "I heard you've had to tolerate more than you should have," she said, voice quiet. Madison stayed still. "I didn't want to cause trouble," she said. "I just wanted to do my job." Elise studied her. Then said, "Trouble's already been caused. The question is what we do with it." Later that evening, Keanu returned. Not with fanfare. With flowers. A small, simple bouquet. Wildflowers. Still damp from the rain. "For the staff," he said, handing them to Madison. No note needed. She took them, surprised. "You don't seem like a flowers kind of guy." "I'm not," he said. "But some spaces need soft things." That night, Madison ran the front of house herself. Elise watched quietly from the bar. Guests smiled more. Waiters moved faster. The whole place seemed to breathe again. At one point, a customer stopped on the way out. "You've got a real presence," he told Madison. "This place feels better with you at the door." She smiled. "Thank you." After close, she found Keanu still at his table. Alone. "You don't have to keep showing up," she said, half teasing. "I'm not here for the food." She raised an eyebrow. "So why?" He leaned back, thinking. "Because I've seen too many places built on noise. And too few guarded by grace." Madison didn't speak. Didn't need to. He stood, placed his gloves on the table, and nodded once. "You're stronger than you know." Then walked out. Under the flowers he'd brought, taped to the vase, was a napkin. She peeled it off and read the handwriting beneath. "When a door opens for you, leave it open for the next one." She folded it gently, placed it in her apron. And for the first time, she felt like she belonged in the building, not just behind the stand. By the end of the week, Jeremy's name had been wiped from the staff roster. No statement. No farewell email. Just gone. Rumors moved fast. A few said he was reassigned. Others whispered he'd been strongly encouraged to resign. Madison didn't care. She wasn't looking backward. On Saturday night, the floor was packed. Couples with glossy smiles. Business dinners, clinking glasses. Every table full. And at the center of it all, Madison, seating, pacing, steadying. She didn't just manage the energy. She steered it. Even Elise noticed. "You ever think about running this place?" she asked during a rare lull. Madison blinked. "Me? You already are." Just before closing, a table spilled their wine. Expensive bottle. White linens ruined. Before anyone could move, Madison was there, calm, cloth in hand, guiding the moment back into grace. The guests apologized. She smiled. "No harm done. Happens more than you'd think." And that's when he appeared again. Keanu. Quiet. Always between moments. He watched from the corner as she brought fresh linens and reset the table. No drama. No panic. Just presence. Later, he approached the counter as she folded napkins. "You're not the same person I met at the stand," he said. "I am," she replied. "I just stopped apologizing for it." He smiled. "That's growth." They stood in the soft light of the emptying restaurant. Then Madison asked the question that had been sitting in her chest for days. "Why me?" Keanu didn't answer right away. Then gently, "Because most people wait to be rescued. You just needed someone to remind you you didn't have to wait." She exhaled slowly. The truth of it landed like a quiet bell. As he turned to leave, she called out, "You ever think about staying longer?" He paused at the door. Already did. Then he walked into the night. Under the counter, folded inside her apron, she found one more napkin. This one said, "Some people ask for permission. Others walk like they already belong. You're the second one now." The next few weeks moved like light through water. Unpredictable. Clear in places. Warped in others. Madison now ran the front with quiet authority. No title change. No promotion. Just trust, and the kind of respect that doesn't need to be announced. She didn't talk more. She just said what mattered. And people listened. One afternoon, a woman in her 50s came in for a late lunch. Alone. Nervous. The kind of nervous that doesn't come from being lost, but from not being used to being seen. "I don't have a reservation," she said quietly. Madison smiled. "You don't need one. Come in." She seated her by the window. A quiet corner. The woman hesitated before ordering. Fumbled with the menu. When the food arrived, she stared at it like she wasn't sure she deserved it. Before she left, she stopped by the hostess stand. "This was the first nice thing I've done for myself in years." Madison only said one thing. "I'm glad you came." That night, when she went to tidy the table, something was left under the napkin. Not a tip. Not a thank you. A small note on lined notebook paper. "I forgot how to breathe. But today I remembered." Madison folded it carefully. Placed it in the drawer with Keanu's napkins. A new layer of quiet courage. By the end of the week, a pattern began. People started staying longer. asking Madison questions that had nothing to do with food. What's that flower by the window? Did you always work here? Why does it feel different in here now? She never had fancy answers. Just real ones. On Friday, Elise pulled her aside. We're thinking of changing the menu. Maybe the format. Less formal. More intentional. Madison raised an eyebrow. You sure this place is ready for that? Elise smiled. I think this place already is that. We're just catching up. That night, Keanu came in again. Wore a charcoal coat and no gloves this time. He didn't sit right away. Just stood near the wall, watching the room, not in critique, but in quiet appreciation. Then he looked at Madison. And gave the smallest nod. She didn't need another napkin. She already understood. But when he left, there was one anyway. Folded neatly. Placed beneath the flower vase at the front. You've turned this place into shelter. And you never raised your voice once. Sunday night was slow. The kind of slow that makes every sound louder, the clink of glass, the shuffle of menus, the hum of the cooler. Madison liked those nights best. The pressure faded. The conversations were softer. The restaurant exhaled. Just after 8 p.m., a man walked in. Sharp suit. Crooked grin. The kind of man who looked at people as if they were paperwork. He didn't look at Madison when he spoke. I have a meeting. Reserved under Lambert. She checked the book. There was no Lambert. I'm sorry, she said. I don't see a reservation under that name. He exhaled hard. That's funny. Because your GM said we had the best table at 8. Madison held the pause. Then calmly said, 1 moment. She walked to the back and found Elise near the kitchen. Elise, she said. There's someone named Lambert. Says you promised him a table? Elise's expression changed. Tightened. I did, she said. And I regret it. He's a hedge guy. Talks big. Tips small. Told me this place needed sharper branding. Madison frowned. Should I seat him? Elise looked at her for a long moment. Then said, only if you want to. Madison returned to the front. Lambert was pacing near the host stand, muttering into his phone. She stood beside him, polite but unmoved. I can seat you now, she said. But it won't be the table you requested. He looked up. Excuse me? You're welcome to stay. But we won't be rearranging the floor to fit your ego. He blinked, thrown off by the calm. You know who I am? I do, she said. And I know what this place is. He scoffed. Unbelievable. Then turned and walked out. Madison exhaled. Slow. Measured. Later, Keanu walked in. Alone as usual. He'd heard none of it. But the room already felt clearer, lighter somehow. Madison greeted him with a nod. You okay? He asked. She smiled. He left. Who? The kind of man who thinks he's the main course. Keanu chuckled. That's a good line. That night he stayed late. Helped polish silverware without being asked. Said nothing as they cleaned. And just before he left, he handed her a slip of folded parchment. Not a napkin this time. On it. Leadership isn't louder. It's lighter. You lifted the room. Monday was rain. Not soft rain. Not poetic rain. Cold, sideways, bone-soaking kind of rain. But the regulars still came. Umbrellas dripping. Coats steaming in the candlelight. They smiled when they saw Madison. Some called her by name now. She didn't correct them. A new hire arrived that night. Nervous. 18. First real job. Her name was Jasmine, and she shook during the interview. Elise let Madison train her. Start her soft, Elise said. Not everyone learns by pressure. So Madison did. She showed her how to greet without performing. How to listen for tone, not just words. How to sense when a table needed warmth, and when it needed silence. By 7:30 p.m., Jasmine had already spilled a glass of water and apologized 8 times. You're doing fine, Madison told her. You're learning. That's the whole point. Jasmine blinked. No one had ever said that to her in a job before. Keanu came in around 8:15. Shook rain from his jacket like a man familiar with weather. He looked around the room, not scanning, just noticing. Madison seated him near the back. A different table this time. He nodded toward Jasmine. New. Madison nodded, trying her best. She will, he said. And that was it. Jasmine brought him his water, hands shaking. Here you go, sir. Keanu took it. Oh, thanks. And just Keanu. She laughed nervously, nodded, walked away like she'd passed a final exam. By closing, Jasmine was lighter. Still clumsy. Still unsure. But smiling. You really think I'm okay for this job? She asked Madison. I think you're exactly who we want. After cleanup, Madison found a small folded card near Jasmine's training manual. It wasn't addressed, but she knew who wrote it. Inside, the first time you see yourself through someone else's kindness, you remember how to walk in the room. Jasmine never said she saw it, but the next night, she stood straighter and never apologized for trying again. By now, the restaurant felt different. It wasn't louder. It was warmer. Customers lingered. Staff moved like a team, not a hierarchy. The wine glasses sparkled because people cared, not because they were afraid. Madison didn't run the place. She rooted it. Midweek, a table asked for the manager. Madison approached, heart braced. Everything all right? A woman in her 60s smiled. More than. I just wanted to say, there's something peaceful here. Not just the food. The feeling. Madison nodded. Thank you. The woman leaned in. We've been to restaurants where everyone knows your name. But this? This is a place where people remember your silence. Madison didn't know what to say. She just smiled and wrote it down when they left. That night, Keanu arrived late. Not for food. He just stepped in while they were locking up. Madison raised an eyebrow. You hungry? He shook his head. Just wanted to see how the place felt without the noise. He stood in the dining room, silent. Some spaces echo when they're empty. This one holds. That's because of you. Madison leaned against the bar. I didn't plan for any of this. You didn't need to. He handed her a small package, wrapped in brown paper, tied with string. She opened it slowly. Inside, a journal. Unused. Leather-bound. On the front, embossed in gold. The room you built. Her hand stilled. What is this? A place to put the things they don't see. She looked up. I thought I was done being invisible. You are, he said. Now you're documenting it. Later that night, she sat at her tiny kitchen table, journal open, pen in hand. She didn't write much. Just one line on the first page. He never told me what to be. He just showed me what I already was. She closed it gently and exhaled. A month had passed. La Burnette felt alive in a way no Michelin star ever did. Friday nights were busy, yet calm, like rivers that knew their channels. Madison floated through the dining room, poised and at ease. But tonight, something shifted. A group of corporate types arrived, briefcases in hand. Not here for the food, they were scouting. At their table, one woman clicked through a presentation on her tablet. Madison sensed tension. She approached. Good evening. Can I start you with water or an aperitif? The lead consultant looked up, surprised. Actually, we'd like to discuss a partnership. A series of pop-up locations, fast casual, same name, same menu. Broad appeal. Madison's heart sank. She glanced at Elise, who hovered by the bar. Elise raised an eyebrow. Madison could feel her unspoken question. What do we say? Madison took a steadying breath. La Burnette isn't a franchise, she said softly but firmly. It's a community. We can't recreate that with spreadsheets. The consultant frowned. We have data. Madison held up a hand. Some things aren't data. She stepped back, gave a small, polite nod. Let me know if you'd like just dinner instead. She walked away before they could argue. In the kitchen, the chef caught her eye. He nodded in solidarity. The staff felt her stand up, not for herself, but for the soul of the place. Later, Elise found Madison at the hostess stand. That was bold, she said. Madison shrugged. Someone had to say it. Elise smiled. I agree. After closing, Madison discovered one final napkin tucked under her notebook. In neat script. Spaces built on numbers collapse. Spaces built on hearts endure. She folded it, placed it in the pocket of her apron. And for the first time, felt truly at home in her own words. It started with a letter. Not an email. Not a Slack message. A real letter, handwritten, delivered to the restaurant in a plain white envelope. It was addressed simply, to the woman who changed the room. Inside, no sender. Just a note. I came in once when I was breaking. You greeted me like I wasn't. That saved more than my evening. Madison read it twice. Then a third time. Then placed it gently in the journal Keanu had given her. The changes came slowly, but they stuck. Menus simplified. Tables spread further apart. Music turned down. The restaurant now moved like a conversation, not a performance. Elise handed Madison a new badge. Not hostess. Not supervisor. Atmosphere director. They laughed when she got it. But it stayed. Keanu hadn't been by in a while. No texts. No notes. No quiet entrances with gloves in hand. At first, Madison worried. But eventually she understood. He didn't vanish. He trusted her. That was the real graduation. One night, a young girl came in with her father. She looked no older than 9. Wore a paper crown from a birthday party. When Madison seated them, the girl whispered, "This place feels soft." Her father smiled. It's her first time in a grown-up restaurant. Madison crouched beside the table. "You're welcome here, just like everyone else." The girl beamed. After they left, Madison wrote something new in the journal. Quiet can change people faster than noise. Because it listens first. That night as she locked up, she paused at the door. She didn't check her phone. Didn't straighten the silver. Just stood there, alone in the stillness of a room she used to feel small inside. But she held it. And it held her back. On a Tuesday morning, before the restaurant opened, Madison found something waiting by the door. Not a customer. Not a delivery. A small wooden box. Unmarked. Unlocked. Inside, a folded cloth, a slip of paper, and a single item wrapped with care. A teaspoon. Carved with imperfect lines and steady weight. She unfolded the note beside it. Asterisk, you don't need me in the room anymore. Because you became the room. Keep setting the table. Someone else is arriving. She sat on the front step and held the spoon in both hands. Not because it was grand. Because it was true. That night she didn't look for him. She didn't expect another napkin or note. She simply lit the candles. Adjusted the music. Held the door open 5 minutes longer for a couple arriving late. And smiled without needing a reason. Later, Jasmine placed a clean set of menus on the stand and looked at Madison. "I think I'm finally starting to get it." "Get what?" "This place isn't about food," she said. "It's about making people feel like they already belong here." Madison smiled. Exactly. By week's end, the wall behind the hostess stand had changed. Subtly. Napkins now framed. Notes in soft gold pins. Little words that had once felt like lifelines now stitched into the fabric of the restaurant itself. No spotlight. No names. But anyone walking in could feel it. The kindness that stayed. A month later, a new employee arrived. Quiet. Nervous. Not unlike Madison once was. She handed him a clean apron. Showed him the ropes. Taught him how to read a room by its silences, not just its sounds. And before the dinner rush, she said, "You'll do fine." He smiled weakly. "You sure?" She nodded. "Someone once made space for me. Now I get to do the same." Some people lead with noise. Madison never had to. She just stayed long enough to let stillness grow loud enough to hear. And when someone asked her later what changed her life, she didn't say his name. She said, "He didn't tell me what I could become. He just treated me like I already was." He didn't show up to save her. He didn't give her a title, or a stage, or a spotlight. He gave her something smaller, quieter, stronger, the belief that she already mattered. And when she finally stood up, it wasn't to prove herself, it was to open the door for someone else.